Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant and welcome to my Getting Started Horizons guide. Now this will help you whether you're a beginner or a veteran player, but it does assume that you're familiar with some of the basics of the game. If you need a complete run through right from the beginning, I have another tutorial that you can access from the video description. Do check out the link. But if you want to jump right in from planetary landings and get yourself off the ground, this is the place to start. We'll start right at the beginning with the main menus, but if you find any areas of the video that you're not interested in, do check out the time links in the video description. You'll be able to jump ahead to areas that may interest you. So without any further delay, let's get going. This is a screen you're presented with when you first start your game then. Right there you have to choose your commander name. As soon as you've done that, you're presented with the option to choose two different starting locations. They both start with the same ship essentially, but they have slightly different builds. One of them starts you in space, which is the basic version of Elite, and we've always had that. The new feature for Horizons is to start you off on the planet. If you do that, you get all the options necessary for planetary landings. You get the Planetary approach suite as well as an SRV. Now I personally prefer the planetary starting position. It's much more interesting and gives you a lot more options. As soon as you've chosen your starting location, you can begin the game. Choose whether you want to begin in solo mode, open play or any other, and you can see more details on that in my other tutorial videos. If you do want a more involved overview for Elite Dangerous as a whole though, do check out my other tutorial videos. It goes into quite a bit more depth. This concentrates on most of the changes for Horizons. One other thing we want to have a very quick look at is how to equip your planetary items. If you go to outfitting, you can go down to the very bottom of your ship's modules and you can see there's an option there for Planetary approach suite, just to fit one of them. The other thing you want to do is fit yourself a planetary vehicle hangar. This allows you to carry an SRV. Now the higher the class of the planetary vehicle hangar you use, the more SRVs you'll be able to carry. A class 2 vehicle hangar can carry one SRV, a class 4 can carry 2 SRVs, and a class 6 can carry 4 SRVs. You can fit as many hangars as you have module slots to allow you to do so. Now it's worth carrying more than one SRV because sometimes your SRV does get destroyed when down on the planet's surface. If an SRV is destroyed, you will spawn back in your ship, not back at the hangar. So it's always wise to have at least one extra SRV in case you're out in deep space or you're near something that you actually want to complete your objective with. Deep space explorers will probably want to carry as many SRVs as possible. When you're 30 or 40,000 light years out in space, you don't really want to have to come back just to get a vehicle. I plan on carrying 4 of them in my Asp Explorer. So one of the first things I like to do is go to the bulletin board. There's some new types of missions here and some of them can pay out a fairly substantial amount of money. Now, some of these missions do focus on planetary surface content and some of the missions send you off into space. This one here is for delivery to a space station, so I'll take that and then I can show you how you actually leave the planet's surface. Once you've chosen a mission and accepted it, you can see it on the left UI panel under the Transactions tab. Once there, you'll be able to read a summary of the mission as well as have a look at its location. Now this mission, the destination is Celes Primus and we just happen to be in that system already. But we have to go to the space station at Beagle 2 landing. And if we want, we can still open up the galactic map just to have a look at the location there. There is marked as Celes Primus, the system we're already in. Click on that option there, brings up the system map. And the little blue triangle there on the system map represents our current location, and the orange icon here represents the destination for our mission. I've got a red icon as well which shows me the location of another ship I've got. You may or may not have that option. So as soon as you've selected your destination, you can launch your fighter. You will probably have to go through a flight check on your first launch. Just do that and then you're good to go. Now this starting location starts you off on the planetary surface as we've already spoke about, and as soon as you're up here you're going to see the planetary surface in all its glory. Now planets in Elite have full orbital mechanics. They orbit the star as well as rotate, so when you come here it may be the same time period as I'm at now, or it may be night time. And of course some of the planets are tidally locked, which means they're always facing the same direction. Now something you want to pay attention to is the new information on the HUD we've got here. You've got a pitch ladder right in the front which tells you your angle of descent or ascent. 0 means you're flying level with the horizon, and if you point up towards a positive number, that represents your degree of climb. 45 degrees here is a pretty good climb. To the right of that you have an altitude indicator, and I'm just coming up to 2 kilometers there. Once you're at about 2 kilometers or 2.5 kilometers, you'll be outside of of mass lock, and you'll then be able to engage supercruise or hyperspace. I'm going straight into supercruise here, and as soon as we do that, you'll be able to escape the gravity of the planet here. Now, it does take a while to pick up speed, a few minutes at least, but once you're on your way, you will pick up velocity pretty fast. If you want to get external views like this one, the default key binding is Control, Alt and Space, or you can go into the bindings and look for the classified camera mode and just bind your own button to that. So here we are at Beagle 2 landing. If you want more information on how to travel to other stations, do have a look at the Elite Dangerous Getting Started video I made. So with Horizons, missions are actually quite a good way to get into the game, and they can reward you quite a good amount of money. So I'm going to hand in this mission, dropping off the cargo that I've actually carried to this station. I've then got another mission that I picked up at Baker's Prospect, and that needs to be taken to another planet on the planetary surface. So when you want to go to your next mission target, you can do that as we did before by selecting it on the galaxy map and then the planetary map. And I'll get into a bit more detail on the planetary map a little bit later on in the video, but first let's have a look at how we approach, or perhaps don't approach, a planet. As we get closer to a planet, we go into what's known as orbital cruise, and as soon as you do that, your little pitch ladder comes up again. Now you need to ensure two things here: one, that you're not travelling too fast, and two, that you're not descending too steeply. Here I was going too fast. It says too fast for orbital cruise, and so my ship will drop out a bit harshly. It will spin out and take a little bit of damage. So try not to approach the planets too fast. You've got your throttle indicator down there on the right of the radar. As you move the throttle forward, up and down, the little bar at the top will change colour. Try and keep your throttle around the area where it actually changes colour. And if you do this, you should be going at roughly the right speed you need to go in order to enter orbital cruise safely. As you approach the settlement or the city, you need to request docking permission just as you do with space stations. You can do that as soon as you get within 7.5 kilometers. Again, as we get further into the video, I'll show you how to locate a settlement and a city on a planet and then safely and correctly approach it. For now though, I just want to concentrate on the various type of missions you can pick up and how to earn yourself some money right off the bat the minute you get into the game. So landing is done in the normal ways. Just be very wary of the level of gravity on the planets. If it's a high gravity planet, you can take a bit of damage when you touch down. Gravity is indicated right on the bottom right of your heads up display, and we can have a closer look at that in a minute. So hand in your missions here at the bulletin board, and you will slowly start building your money up. Now I've spent a bit of my money here on outfitting. That's something you can do. It's possible to upgrade your ship as well as buy new ships, and as I've mentioned previously, there's more details on that in my other videos. So as I mentioned previously, there are a whole bunch of new mission types that just involve planetary surfaces, and I've gone ahead and collected a few of these. One of them here is a planetary search and rescue. We have to go and find a lost pilot. We can pick up the occupied escape pod and then bring that back here to this city or this settlement. We've got another mission here where we can infiltrate or attack another outpost here or another settlement, which is quite a nice little mission we can do, and we'll be getting to that one shortly. But first, let's have a look at the search and rescue mission. Again, just launch your ship when you're ready to go. This mission is on the same planet that I'm already on. I'm still here in Acellus Primus at Baker's Prospect. So on this occasion, we don't need to head to a different planet. What we need to do instead is search the surface of a planet for a point of interest. Now, points of interest are areas that contain objects that a player can interact with. These may be wrecked ships, they could be an occupied escape pod like the one we're looking for, or they could be a mining outpost or a bunch of sentries, indeed pretty much anything. We need to find one that hopefully will allow us to complete our mission. So to find a point of interest, you will not be able to see it if you're too low down to the ground here. You need to go above 2 kilometers for your radar to pick up the point of interest. You'll also need to increase the range of your radar, and I think the default keys for that are page up and page down on a PC. You can go into the control bindings and set your own bindings though for that, so that's something I highly recommend you go and do. The default range on the radar probably won't allow you to pick up a point of interest very easily, so as you can see there, I just increased the range of the radar and you can see a little red circle having appeared. Now, as I mentioned earlier on, I've got some different HUD colours here. On the default colours, on the default orange, the little circle will actually appear as blue. So that's the circle you need to fly towards, and once you're inside it, it should increase in size a little bit, and we then need to start descending back down and land inside of it. Now, when you're down low enough, you can actually fly over the area that's contained within the circle, but the unfortunate side effect here is that the circle does disappear when you get down a bit lower, so you'd be scouting blind, but you can actually locate the point of interest while you're in your ship. Although with the current iteration of the game mechanics, I find that quite difficult to do. So if you can't do it while you're in your ship, you need to try and land. Now, landing is where it gets interesting. We need to pay attention to both the pitch and the altitude indicators. And to the right of the altitude indicator, there's another marker there, and that indicates our velocity we're descending at. The large middle bar represents a very safe descent speed. It means we're moving down at a speed that won't harm our ship. As you can see, another bar has appeared there. That just means our velocity has increased a little bit. The higher the number of bars you've got there, the more that there are, the faster you're going down. And if you go too fast, you actually smash your ship into the ground and cause a lot of damage. Also, if you pick up velocity too much, you'll not be able to counteract it and slow down. Now, use your vertical thrusters here. They're the up and down thrusters. You may have to bind them in order to use them, but they're pretty much essential for both landing and for taking off. Now, I had a quick scout around here for the point of interest, and I haven't actually been able to see it, so I'm going to deploy my landing gear and just touch down. Now, you can see here that another element has now appeared on the HUD. Two little up arrows pointing up mean I need to point my nose upwards, and the bars to the left and right of it show me the alignment I need to be with the ground in order to be correctly aligned to the ground. Now, do rely on the instruments and not the horizon, because obviously we're on an embankment here. Once you're landed, look down and you can select the deploy SRV option. Compared to your ship, the SRV is very different to control. In some respects, it's very much like a car. Obviously, you've got the acceleration, the braking and the steering as well. But unlike a car, you've got thrusters on the SRV. It's got massive suspension, and of course it's affected by the gravity of the planet you're on. I'm not going into too much details on how to drive the SRV, but I have got another video coming out very shortly that will give you a lot of hints and tips on how to drive the vehicle. So now we're down, landed inside a point of interest. What we need to do is use the scanner in order to find what's out here. The scanner is the little bar at the top of the radar there that's actually moving, and it has a signature. As I moved around there, you could see the signature come into view. That's a wave scanner. Now, the signature can actually be fairly different depending on what's actually being scanned. This is a large signature. It's quite high, quite tall from the bottom of the scanner to the top. Some of the other signatures only go halfway up the scanner and some about 1/3. So what we do is orientate our vehicle so that it's central to the signature there. And as we get closer to our target, that signature will become more refined, more condensed, and it will start to narrow up until it's quite a fine slither on the center of the scanner. And that will mean that you're almost on top of the object you're searching for. Sometimes you'll find you'll land your ship right near the object. Other times you'll find that you can end up driving for quite a few minutes before you actually find what you're looking for. In this case, it was about 1.5 minutes of additional driving, and you can see the signature there has now narrowed up a bit. It's refined somewhat, and you can see our target there in the distance. And it's a destroyed SRV with a occupied escape pod, exactly what we need for our mission. So points of interest can actually be quite different. We've got ones that are quite simple like this one. Sometimes they're shipwrecks with some ship debris scattered around. Other times they can be mining outposts. Now sometimes these areas are protected by sentries, and you may well need to destroy the sentry before you can take the object here. So deploy your cargo scoop. You can do that with the key binding or by using the functions tab on the right hand UI menu, and then just drive toward the object you want to scoop up once it's been targeted. And there you go, we've now picked up the occupied escape pod, and we can see that in our cargo hold by going to the right UI panel, going across to the inventory tab, and there it is. Well, once we've picked up our object, we need to call back our ship, and we can do that by looking at the panel here and just calling the ship back, ship recall. The ship will find a safe area to land at. Sometimes that can be right near you, other times it can be off in the distance somewhat. But in either event, we just need to drive straight toward it in order to board it again. To get back inside, you just drive straight underneath it and park yourself in the little glowing area here. You need to be fairly correctly aligned here. You can just use the head look to look up just to make sure you're centrally positioned. Now it doesn't matter what angle you're positioned at, you can be facing the front, rear or sides of the ship or any version thereof, and the ship will still pick you back up. You can tell you're correctly aligned when you see the board ship light on the bottom right hand corner of your UI. To take off again, you simply use your upwards thruster. Now the indicator at the front will tell you what button or stick you need to press in order to do that. The amount of momentum you actually lift off with will depend greatly on the amount of gravity on the planet. You can see that on the bottom right of the heads up display. Here it's around 1.2 G. 1 G equals to what gravity we have on Earth. Anything less than that means that your ship and you will actually be lighter, that there's actually less gravity on that planet. Anything higher means that you and your ship will actually be heavier, that the planet is actually pulling you down a lot harder. Some planets out there have higher than 6 G, making it very hard to land your ship, almost impossible in some cases, and it also makes it very difficult to actually fly your ship. I mentioned earlier that we'd actually have a closer look at the system and planetary maps. If we go to the system map, you can see a list of the locations here by going to the tab I'm using here, and that will show you a list of the locations landable within the system. This is a schematic map of the planet. You can actually rotate it round and choose your destination from here. Just click on it and select it. As we approach the planet that has a settlement on it, we can see that our chosen destination actually appears as a selected sphere. Now if that sphere is solid here, it means the object is on this side of the planet. If it's actually broken, then it means that the object is actually on the other side of the planet, and we'd need to reposition our ship so that we can come down on the opposite side. So here we're going to attempt a slightly better approach. You can see that I'm actually coming along at an angle to the destination rather than directly at it. This means that our approach will be much more stable and much more controlled. Keep an eye on your pitch ladder to make sure you're not descending at a too steep an angle, and also keep an eye on your altitude indicator. Once you get down to 26 kilometers, you'll actually drop out of super cruise, or orbital cruise rather, and go into glide mode. Now glide mode, your ship will travel at 2,500 meters a second, so still quite a speed, and it's actually possible to cause yourself to black out here, as I nearly did there. If you do that, your ship's controls will actually lock out for a few moments. Orientate yourself towards your target. Eventually you will drop out of glide mode and enter regular speed. Here is our objective. This is the mission target. It's a little settlement here, and we can actually fly over it first just to get an idea of what it's going to be like. Now some settlements, as you fly over them, will have air restriction over them, and they'll actually issue a warning to vacate their area. If you don't obey, you'll be issued with a fine. If you still don't obey, you'll be issued with a bounty, and eventually they will open fire on you. And this means that it's quite a good idea to actually set your ship down outside of their field of fire, and that's usually at about 3.5 kilometers. Once you're in position, you can deploy your SRV. Now your SRV will actually take quite a while to cover that 3.5 kilometers. It can take just a few seconds inside a ship, but quite a bit longer inside a vehicle. On the scanner there, you can see the mission objective. There's actually 2 signatures there. The scanner actually picks up all the facilities inside the base here, and unfortunately there's no way of distinguishing which one is your mission objective and which one isn't. But you can see that there is one just there to the left, and at the time I didn't realise it, but that was actually where I needed to head. Now the base won't aggro you by default, but once you've exceeded your warnings, it will start attacking you. Now turrets aren't too much of a threat, but if there's more than a couple of them, they can start posing a bit of a problem. Eventually I realised where I had to head. You just need to start following the scanner like I said, and you can get yourself to your mission objective. Now sometimes the bases are actually shut down. Now if you're fortunate, you can actually find the facility that actually allows you to open these doors, but if you can't, you can just use your booster to get up and over them. Now the objective for this mission was to shut down the power supply. Sometimes you may have to shut down a turret, other times you may have to do some data retrieval. In all cases you just have to find a different facility and then interact with it in the same way. Your SRV actually comes with a data scanner, and you can bind this to a key by applying it to a fire group using your right UI panel. And that's for objects that you actually need to scan, but in this case I don't need to scan the object, I actually need to destroy it. Here is the power generator, and you can destroy it just by shooting at it. You can see the object's health there down on the bottom left, and it's now destroyed, and the mission's updated telling me that I've completed it. Now, sometimes these missions can be quite quick, just like this one. Other times they can take quite a bit longer. They can be a little bit more difficult to actually find your target, and the base can be full of sentries and turrets, all of which can be attacking you. But in either event, once you're done, it's time to leave the base. Now, one thing that's actually interesting, whether you're a new player or an old player, you will have the same quality of SRV. So pretty much anyone can actually do these base assault missions. This is a new save, you saw me create it right at the start. And this mission actually gives a reward of well over 100,000 credits. So that means with just a couple of these service-based missions, you can soon find yourself with 250,000 or even 500,000 credits. More than enough to significantly upgrade your ship or even buy yourself a new ship. One other thing we want to look at that's new to Horizons is synthesis. This is a basic version of crafting. There will be more on crafting coming later on in 2016, but for now this is what you've got. We can actually deploy our SRV when we're inside a city or a settlement. This is back at Baker's Prospect again, and you can then drive around the settlement. This is pretty nice because they're actually large areas and quite well constructed. At any rate, to use synthesis we need to collect materials, and to find materials we go out into the planetary surface here and use our SRV scanner, the wave scanner there. You can see the faint traces of a signature on the scanner, and we actually use it in exactly the same way that we did when we were finding our mission objective in the point of interest. Here you can see that the signature is now quite a lot more refined, and up ahead is our objective. A little piece of metal, a meteorite that has landed. We can break that up just by shooting at it, select it, target a head key, and then either go into your turret here by deploying weapons, or just shoot it using the guns on the front of the SRV. Either way, it will shatter into pieces. Now you saw the pieces just drop to the floor there. That's because this is a relatively high gravity planet. On a lower gravity planet they will shoot up into the air before slowly falling down. But select one, open your cargo scoop, and then you can just scoop it up. When you collect a material for the first time, you will be awarded a new discovery, and that goes towards your exploration rank. Now, it doesn't increase your exploration rank by dramatic speed, but seeing as we're right down at the very start here, it will probably increase it a little bit once we've found a few of them. And there you can see it's actually promoted us already to mostly aimless. To use synthesis, go to the right UI panel, navigate across to inventory and then down to synthesis, and we can see we've got a bunch of things here. Synthesis items can be constructed in a variety of qualities. We've got the basic one here, we then have standard, and we then have premium. Each one gives you a bonus. We can see that this gives a bonus of plus 50% to damage, and this one plus 100% to damage. Now, the bonuses may change depending on the patch version of the game. Frontier have said they're still trying to correctly balance this out. But essentially what you can see here is that we can repair our SRV, we can refuel it, and we can also supply it with new ammunition. So basically when we're out in space, we don't need to keep returning to a station or a settlement in order to restock the SRV. We can also use synthesis for other things that are related to our ship, such as an FSD jump boost. The FSD jump boost is particularly interesting and will come in very handy for a lot of people. If you go to the galaxy map, you can see here you can switch between fastest routes and the new option FSD boost, and then we can select here no boost or boost one level, and that increases our jump range there to 37 light years, and we can then increase it again to a level 2 boost. This gives us 45 light years on our ASP, and of course we can then increase it to a level 3 boost. Each level requires different synthesis components, with the higher level requiring more rarer items. Items that are more rarer obviously are much more difficult to find. Now do keep in mind that your materials cannot be lost. If your ship explodes and you die, you will keep your materials even when you respawn. And that takes off a lot of the worry over owning some of the more rare items. So here we are, I'm going to do a level 2 boost. Keep in mind my ship can only normally jump 30 light years. Here I'm going to try and jump 44 or 45 light years, and the ship is telling me quite clearly that I'm not able to do that. Here I can go into the boost menu for the FSD and use synthesis to do that. Just select what you want and it will say that it's activated, and I should now be able to jump that extra distance, and this is quite significantly extra distance. Now, as I say, these type of materials are quite rare. They're a little bit harder to find, but if you've got enough of them, they could dramatically reduce those long distance journeys. And of course, another bonus here is that if you have a combat orientated ship such as a Vulture with a traditionally very low jump range, you will now be able to increase that jump range just for a couple of uses in order to get you to your destination. That brings us to the end of this quick rough and ready getting started guide for Horizons. If you want some more detailed overviews and some more detailed tutorials, do check out the links in the video description below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time. Welcome to my series of tutorials for new players of Elite Dangerous. Now, Elite is a pretty big game, so I've broken this series down into a number of different videos. The initial video here is the longest one, but it will teach you everything you need to know to get you from your first ship into an upgraded, more powerful one, and it will give you a number of tips and tricks along the way. Now, this video may not follow the format of other tutorials you've seen for Elite Dangerous, but that's because this is an essential playthrough, allowing you to follow it closely, step by step. As you can see in the background, Elite Dangerous is an extremely beautiful game, and before you know it, you're going to be out there in these locations playing for yourself in some of the most powerful ships you can get. So, without any further delay, let's get right into it.